What's up, YouTube? This is MR2. Been quite a bit going on. I've been studying quite hard, here lately. And everybody's fine, everything's fine. You might hear in the background here and there, but if you would ignore it, please. I want to try to do my best on this, and it may take a while, so please bear with me. It has been argued by many scientists and the entire scientific community, really, for many, many years as to whether we are a creation or whether we are a random event. And, of course, in my mind, there's never been any question the fact that, we are created, and there's no way around it. And that's what we've been trying to prove all along. And if the fact that our Creator is very, very scientific, and He created everything that you see in a very scientific manner, so that we wouldn't get confused. The only thing we got confused with was listening to others that only seek wealth. Anyways, if you want to look at how the universe works, both in micro and macro, there are several people that you can look into that really prove the fact that God exists, and that we are creations, and that this is not a Big Bang universe. It's a perpetual, infinite universe. And Nassim, Haramein, Walter Russel, and Santos, Bonacci, and they have separate fields. Nassim Haramein and his unified field theory, and then of course Walter Russell and the new concept of the electric universe, and then of course the history of the human race by Santos Bonacci, who pretty much uses both of those others in his theories too, of the human race, and our history, our actual history shows that we've been around a whole lot longer than we actually thought, possible, and the fact that man had his hands in the interpretations of literature throughout the ages, that pretty much, says a lot on its own. If you wanted, looking at the fact that, well, if you take the universe as it is, at any scale that you want to, and this is why this is so important. And you can all look into this if you want to. My name is Billy L. Yelverton. I am not, nor have I ever been, affiliated with any secret societies or Freemason societies of any sort. You're welcome to check that yourself. You'll see quite well. I was a sheet metal mechanic, and I loved doing sheet metal simply because I was able to make whatever I wanted to and didn't have to go buy it or ask anybody for it. Been intrigued by that my whole life. And to understand exactly what these tools are for, then there's nothing you can't do without them. And even up to now, right now in my life, I understand that these two tools are responsible for, and they will pretty much prove to you that creation is what it is. It's creation. It can't be. It's not just creation, but it's creation to the millionth power. If you can imagine, everything we have is particle and wave relationship. You'll have a particle, and particles are charged. We have some neutral particles that don't interact the way they should, and this is probably part of the consciousness, and I'm telling you, I don't know everything. I'm just going to show you what I do know. And the fact that we can all butt heads and agree to disagree, we'll get a lot further down the road. And, even though some people hold a lot of information, you shouldn't allow arrogance to get in the way of knowledge. So if you can imagine a particle is a dot, as Haramein or Nassim says, is a dot. A particle is a dot. Yet all particles are in motion. So therefore you wouldn't see a particle as a dot. You would see a particle represented, if no other force acted upon it, as a line. And the fact that the square represents the particle, and if something, anything, a force acts upon that particle, then it has no choice but, to move in a curved pattern. It will move either left or right or up or down, unless it will stray from its path towards whatever force is acting or away from whatever force is acting upon it, whether it's repelled or retracted. And you can use this compass as a representation of the wave itself, that force that interacts with that particle. And you can take these two tools, no matter what, you don't have to use any numbers or any certain setting. You can use it wherever you want. You don't have to set it on anything, and draw your line as a representation of a particle. And you can make up reference points along the line and say that that particle right there moves at that much, and that would represent what you see. If a wave or magnetic field, what we would say represents the wave or consciousness, was to act upon that, then it would move from its straight line path and go to a different, whatever the amount of force exerted upon it. And you take this, you could. We'll just go start doing some stuff here. Start doodling around, because it doesn't matter what you size. This is the part that gets you as far as infinity, because you can set this as small as you want or as large as you want. It's still going to create the same pattern, and therefore create is the key word here. You can, without any numbers whatsoever, you could take a straight line and find a square perpendicular to it, simply by doing that. You can also take, to basics, just to start out with, no setting whatsoever. We'll take one radius, that would be a radius, and we'll start with that, and we'll just use that all the way through. We won't change it whatsoever. And again, we could set this, we could go smaller or larger, and this scale works no matter where you're at, macro or micro. We find the exact same pattern. And if that particle was acted upon by a wave, then this, at a certain frequency, then this would represent what that particle will begin to start doing. And the fact is, you could take, we'll start here. This is awful intriguing as far as this very first set of steps is what creates the sign of the zodiac, and our calendars and our clock face, the exact same as a wall clock or whatever. It's exactly, we can create that very first thing, time itself. Let's go back and do that one again. There. There. That same distance will split that circle into the exact proportions for the zodiac sign, and like I said, the watch, time itself that we use to represent time, also shows up first thing. And as we keep going, you'll see that you could use this could still go with the Fibonacci sequence, and it will still, at any rate, it'll still create the same types of patterns. These patterns show up everywhere, all around the world. I mean, on the night side of Earth, this is city lights show up as the same patterns, and of course, those city lights are following the streets that used to be dirt roads that we stomped out by foot, which had nothing to do with electricity that's on there. The Earth patterns, just the lights represent the road, the path that we created. We created those paths on foot without our own knowledge, and they look exactly like that. You can take this same distance and not change it whatsoever, and you can just continue right on doodling, and you can't help but to create exactly what we see here. And these same patterns show up when we pop those balloons. It's the interaction between the particle and the wave, and this is just this proof that the proof that it is creation, simply because if you can create it, it's created. It's not random. It shows up every single time. It does it over and over and over again without fail. And we'll just do half of this side here. And just do a little bit more here. I'm just using it to make points to go back to. Make sure I got them all, or half of it anyways. It's not actually perfect, but it would be if you did it. If I took my time and tried to be a little more accurate, it would come out exactly perfect every time. You could take these, just continue right on, particle, then wave, particle, then wave, represented by this compass and the square. You can relate that right to every single thing around us, every bit of it. If you continue to just doodle on around, you can't help but to create exactly what we see in the macro scale of everything. The fact that if you take a really thin liquid such as printer ink, I think they call it phosphorus something else, I'll post a link on it. You place it in a magnetic field, or place it on, I'll show you this picture here. You place it, these same patterns, tetrahedral patterns, show up. This is a particle trying to chase that field of current, that magnetic field. It's going to run right up it. It's going to follow it. And it's not going to do that on a random effect. It's going to do it because because it's made to do it. Because this creation is going to happen over and over and over and over. It's going to do it again and again and again and again. And you could look into all this, a whole lot of stuff. Man, we're going to go through a whole lot here. The Cambrian event. If you look into the Cambrian event, science itself is going to prove this very fact. And the fact that they won't let go of gravity, that's the one reason why. Because it will prove that this is creation and not some random type. The Cambrian event, or explosion as they call it, happened around, it appeared to show up around 500 million years ago. Up until that point, there were only, the first 2 billion years of Earth's existence, according to science, there was no life or type of life whatsoever. And then we went through about 2.5 billion years where there were only single-celled organisms on the planet. And then, of course, 500 million years ago, over a 65 million year period, between 65 and 70 million years, the Earth went from a single-celled organism all the way to eyes, ears, nose, mouth, heartbeat, lungs, every single thing that we see in the human race, in the biological race, today, all happened over a short period of time, geologically speaking. And since that time, every 62.5 million years or so, that's the good average number, life itself has increased existentially in its knowing and knowledge. That every 62.5 million years, creation comes along and gives us a big old kick in the butt. And the fact that the Mayans say that we're in the center of the galaxy and that we're going through, crossing the ecliptic plane of the galaxy, and this may just be propaganda too, and truly we can look into it and go all day long. But, science says that every 62.5 million years is the cycle that we meander back and forth through the galaxy, from the top plane down to the lower plane. And in fact, according to science, the solar system is at the very upper edge of the galaxy. And again, as everything's in motion, our galaxy is traveling headlong through space, through this energy that from creation itself. You can look into the patterns of how all this works, and it shows up exactly the same way every time. And you can see that according to science, Earth's closer to the outside edge of our galaxy, allowing more energy to pass into our solar system. And we can look into that 62.5 million year cycle and get a little bit worried about what happened with the KT boundaries and, of course, all the other cold scenes that came about during that time, these times. And I want you to understand that this time around that this appears is not going to happen. It's not going to do that this time. And I say that because we have already went past the climax, the precipice. We're on the other side. We're headed into it's just going to take some time for that to catch up with the human psyche and society, but that's coming. Don't think that you better be prepared for what's about to happen. Please. At any rate, even in our understanding, nobody knows exactly what's going to happen. But the more we learn, the more we can realize that we have the ability to change it. We have the ability to create our world the way we want it. And the fact that, if you look at this whole scale of micro and macro, throughout that our portion that we see, that we know of, the only thing capable of manipulating that positive and negative current is the biological brain. You really have no idea how important you are and what you're really capable of doing. And that's a lot of other things as far as consciousness to get into, and there's a lot of other places you can look into that stuff, We want to look into some other things called what we're talking about here that's happening on our table, that, where these same sprite patterns show up. And what we found here is quite outstanding, to say the least. The fact that they're what is known as the Birkeland currents, and they were discovered back in the early 1900s, or they were predicted back in the early 1900s, and then they've since been verified throughout, since the 60s, 1960, all the way up through now, although they do not call them the Birkeland currents. They're called the field-aligned currents. It's what science community, they won't acknowledge that Mr. Birkeland was right about that. At any rate, he is on Wikipedia, and he is getting some of his, credit due now, as it always turns out. At any rate, you can see that these sheets of electric current, are all through around our atmosphere. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because this is how particles come into our atmosphere. Our atmosphere of this planet and all planets is not some steady state atmosphere. It is totally cycled. The moisture on this planet, the water that's in the ocean, the moisture in the atmosphere, it is replenished and brought on by solar activity, and the fact that this is where all the water comes from. You can't burn hydrogen without creating water, because oxygen has to be involved or it won't do it to begin with. And the fact that we know, and we can, they're going to prove before too long that it's not just nuclear furnace that we've been told that it is. The comet Lovejoy, you can say that it was not a comet, but you could also say that the sun is not what it is either, because there's no possible way what we saw could have happened, whether it was ice or an iron ball. The fact is, most comets are made of water, and they do hit the sun, and that would in its turn be a refueling, if you would. If you were to imagine that the sun was a base sphere of water with a high charge of electric current in it, which it is, a large ball of liquid without any question. You can see the fluid dynamics in play. And the fact that, sunspots measured in magnetism of somewhere on the order of several thousand times larger than magnetism on Earth, it'll let you know there's several million, if not billion, volts of electric current involved in the sun. If you look into the sun, the electric sun theories, that's exactly, wherein they say we're involved with several billion volts of current. that are involved in the sun. And that, alone in itself, will explain gravity to be what it is. When you look into that, then these same patterns right here show up. Now, you can also look into some of the satellites that have been out for the past several years, and we'll take one in particular. It is the RHESSI satellite, or HESS, however how they want to pronounce it. It was launched back, I think, 2007 or so, way back, or 2001 might have been. Check that out. Yeah, it was launched quite a while back. And at any rate, they have what are known as particle precipitation events. And these events happen on satellites that are 600 miles outside, above Earth's surface. And strong particle precipitation events have caused, problems to shut down satellites, and they've had, they've got detectors that detect large particle precipitation events. And these particle precipitation events are when actual particles precipitate into the atmosphere of the Earth. And when you look into it, they can't be but they're charged particles of. Our atmosphere is made of water vapor. It can't be anything else. The sun's not going to make anything else. Hydrogen burning will only make water. If you can make other things out of it as other chemicals that are added to it, but water vapor is the main ingredient that will come out of it. It doesn't matter if you burn methane or propane or any type of gas with oxygen. You're going to get a moisture, you're going to get a vapor of water, and it may be, highly full of carbon monoxide, or it might be full of oxygen, it might be full of whatever. That's the chemical soup. But nonetheless, you can't help but to get the same creations that you have, what we see. They even admit fully that these particle precipitations are, they're part of the aurora system. They come into our atmosphere. They have articles here, and I'll post all these links. They have large particle precipitation events in Jupiter's atmosphere. And they even say, you can look into some of these satellites that have fallen here lately, and they kind of mess up a little bit, but, there's quite a few articles that explain that the rate that some of these satellites fell, and the reason that some of them sped up, the reason why they fell faster than they thought they would is because due to heights and solar activity. And this says it clearly that heights and solar activity will cause our atmosphere of the Earth to increase or expand. The radiation increase causes Earth atmosphere to expand, which increases drag on the satellite, causing it to fall faster. Increase in solar activity causes Earth's atmosphere to expand. Earth's atmosphere is made primarily of water vapor, and it expands because of radiation from the sun. This is what happens when particles travel through space in a vacuum, or what we consider a vacuum, the lack of particle, but not the lack of wave. It's going to be referred to as radiation, because that, it's just like beam me up, Scotty. It's a particle transition. This is how it works, and you can see this exact same pattern take shape in creation. Creation will do it over and over and over again. You can't really get around the fact that science itself is going to prove creation, and it already has. They just won't let go of it. So maybe, I hope, that helps somewhat, and we will continue to look as hard as we can at what, our Creator is showing us. So I want everybody to understand, that we can do something. We can flat do something about it. Your brain, my brain, are the only entities that we know of capable of manipulating positive and negative. So we shouldn't waste it. So we're on the path, and it's going to happen, and we're going to be as prepared as you can for it. You know, it's the best we can do. And support each other, man, the best that we possibly can. Please quit infight. We don't need to be getting at each other right now at a time when it's already bad enough. So with that, I'm going to let it go. Peace, love, from my heart. A big heads up.